It is Friday, June the 14th, Major League Baseball. First pitch here on WagerTalk TV live every weekday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And then, of course, you can watch the archived replay here 24/7. Comment below if you're watching the replay on YouTube. I do check the comments. I reply back. But if you're watching us live, be sure to chat with us on YouTube TV, on YouTube Shorts, or if you're day drinking early on Instagram. As long as it's coherent, we will get you your questions in the live chats and any games, player props, pitcher props you want to ask about, because we've got a legendary baseball capper joining me today, and that's Bryan, Leonard, part of WagerTalk.com. And, of course, you can get Bryan's top play and my top play tonight for just $5 because it is Customer Appreciation Friday at both WagerTalk.com and also SportsMemo.com. A great time to try out some best bets. You can get both Bryan's and mine for $5 each, and that's still less than half of what you would play normally for a $25 best bet at WagerTalk.com. Bryan, welcome to the show. Let's get right into it. We'll get some live chat questions in a moment. But first, we're going to do a big game breakdown. Kansas City, LA Dodgers. Ross Benjamin actually covered this game earlier on Wager Talk today. I invite people to go back and hear his take on it as well. But I'm very interested to get your take. And what I mentioned to Ross was, early in the season, the Royals were maybe perhaps one of the bigger overachievers in baseball. Cooled off a little bit. Don't want to say the Dodgers were an underachiever, but everybody thought they were going to never lose. And, boy, they've lost some games this year. So what are your thoughts on this Kansas City-LA Dodger game tonight on Friday?
Yeah, the Dodgers are a concern. If you take a look at their lineup, the top of the lineup stacked, no doubt about it. But they're slumping right now. Ohtani's not he had a home run a couple of days ago, but he's not playing very well. Betts isn't hitting that well. In fact, all three of them, I believe, are at 305 or under in their batting average. And if you remember earlier this season, they were all doing very well, especially Ohtani and Betts. It's getting to the point now the Dodgers have made some kind of strange moves offensively, bringing in Kevin Biggio from Toronto. I don't think he's an answer. And if he's the best you can get right now from an offensive standpoint, that's not very good. So I'm looking to fade the Dodgers if I can. And, we're getting one of the best young pitchers in baseball here. And Cole Reagan's going against them today. I've watched Kansas City a lot this year. They're a very good team. They're very similar to the Dodgers come the batting order because the first half of the Kansas City order's got some really good hitters on it, and the back half struggles. And they've got guys in the middle of the infield, second base, that really should not be in Major League Baseball from a hitting standpoint. And that's really the way the Dodgers are right now. So these are two teams that I think are going to be pitching heavy in this game. We've got a total of 7.5 on here. That makes sense to me, as I don't think either offense is primed right now. But I see value here on Kansas City with the Reagans on the mound. To me, he's the better pitcher at this point of their careers. And anytime I can catch a better pitcher in a game that's at this point of an underdog, this size of an underdog, I have to give it a look. Dodger, a team, as you mentioned, coming into the team, I did a show with Brandon, Tokyo Brandon. He's had a wonderful baseball season. He's a wonderful handicapper. But he talked about the Dodgers betting over in season wins. And I said, when you're as good as the Dodgers are and you're going to have that big of a lead in the division, there's no urgency to win 120 games or whatever. A lot of people are expecting them to. So they're still in very good shape. They have not played that well. We've all seen about the starting pitchers for the Dodgers, many injuries there. So as bad as they've been playing, they're still set up very well to get to the playoffs and win it all. But on an individual game basis, they're a team that usually you can find value betting against them. And that's what I find here with Kansas City. I talked about Cole Reagans. If you take a look at the StatCast data, he's red right across the board. He's better than Gavin Stone is. Gavin Stone's strength is his exit velocity is only 86.9, hard hit percentage 32. He keeps the opposition off balance. That's what he does. But if you take a look at his K percentage, it's only 18.9 as opposed to Reagan's 30.2. His expected batting average of 267 compared to Reagan's 234. So clearly got a starting pitcher edge here on Reagan's, and I think he'll go probably 7 innings in this game because this Dodgers team just isn't hitting. And if I can get this kind of price in a game where I think the starter for the underdog is going to be in through 7 innings, that's the underdog I'm looking to play. So I played the Royals here. I like the Royals in this matchup.
Yeah, Brian, it's pretty crazy, to say the Dodgers are underachieving, but I do feel that way that, they're underachieving, yet they have a 600 win percentage, the second best in the National League, fifth best in all of baseball, and like 100 net runs still above. So it's pretty crazy that they're underperforming. They're still that good. But I know Teddy and I both talked about it on Wager Talk today earlier this year. We were both believers on the over. It was over or pass for both of us on the season win total. And I was like, it seems obvious. It seems square. It's normally not a play I'd be on, but they were so loaded offensively. I just thought they couldn't help but win on a nightly basis. But like you said, it's been a very top-heavy lineup, and their offense really hasn't been as dominant as I thought it would be. So we'll see what happens. And I wasn't sold on them in the postseason. That was just a pure regular season play for me. Postseason's a different animal. I wasn't sure they had the aces on that staff. Wouldn't it be ironic now that they underachieve and then they win the whole thing in the postseason? It's almost like that's how it's going to probably end up playing out. Once again, if you're finding this useful, thumbs up, really helps keep the content free here. Make sure you've clicked subscribe and you hit the bell as well so you know when these shows go live throughout the baseball season, and also the daily free play videos. And I point that out because I just recorded one before this show on the Phillies Orioles. That'll be up shortly here on Wager Talk TV. And I want to get your take as well, Brian. It's definitely one of our spotlight games for tonight. Phillies traveling to Baltimore. They're only about an hour apart on I-95. You don't think of the Phillies and Orioles as being a rival because they're in different leagues. The Eagles and the Ravens never play. But this is a kind of an I-95 rival interleague series that we've had for years. Two of the best teams in baseball, perhaps a World Series preview. But I like the Orioles in this game tonight. I mentioned earlier this week, I thought it was going to be a bad spot for the Phillies coming back from London, having to play those two ridiculous games Saturday and Sunday, travel Friday, travel back Monday. I thought it was a fade on Tuesday at Fenway, and I talked about it on Wager Talk today earlier this week, but I hedged it a little bit. I said I could see a situation in which they have a little bit of momentum, first time in Fenway in 3 years, and they get that game. And I go, if they do, then you really fade them the next couple of nights. And boy, has that held up. And what's been strong pitching has not showed up. They gave up 17 runs on 27 hits the last two nights. So your thoughts on this game? I like the Orioles. Bradish has been great. Now, I know Ranger Suarez has been fantastic this year, best pitcher in baseball probably. But he's only gone 2 innings and 5.5 his last two outings, and he had to pitch Saturday in London. So maybe a little regression from him as well. What's your take on this game, maybe this weekend series overall, and also the Phillies and Orioles going forward?
As of right now, you can make a good discussion that these are the two best teams in baseball, and you've got two of the best pitchers. You've got Kyle Bradish, who has a short career, but what he has shown has been very impressive. And he came back from injury this year. We didn't know what we were going to get, but he's been fantastic. If you take a look at his StatCast numbers, he's got red everywhere across the board. Deep red, he's been terrific. His expected batting average from opponents, 165. Even Ranger Suarez, 218 in that regard, as good a season he's had. So the only thing with Bradish is he doesn't have his control right now. 9.7% walk rate. That's the only negative for Bradish. Suarez has been great in that regard all year long, 5.6% walk rate. So we've got two of the hottest pitchers in Major League Baseball, two of the best hitting teams, and a total of around 7 in this game. And I still kind of like the under. This is a situation for myself where I have seen nothing to want to go against either one of these starters. How many times have we looked for that regression to come for Ranger Suarez this year, and it just hasn't happened? He has been terrific. You just watch him pitch. He's very confident on the mound, and that's something that shows when he's pitching for the Phillies. And Bradish is another guy that's pitching very well right now. So I will say it's dangerous to go under this type of number with these two offenses. But we've seen Baltimore at times, they're getting shut out at home, and then all of a sudden they score 13 runs. They've been very inconsistent, and that's because they've got a lot of young guys on this team, a lot of guys that have been used to being brought up and sent back down to the minors. They've got a great lineup. The Phillies have a great lineup also, but theirs is more of a top-heavy one also. The top 6 guys are really good. The bottom half is having some problems there, and most teams in Major League Baseball are going to be in that situation. So as good as these teams have been, they're also top heavy, like the last game I talked about. So I like the under here. Didn't make my card because it's it's in that range of 7 here. 7 over 120 is the best line I see out there. 125 at circa. Lean with the under, but not enough to get involved in it personally.
Yeah, these guys actually faced off last July. Bradish and Suarez actually faced each other July 26th a year ago. and it was a fairly high-scoring game. 6-4 Phillies win. They were a -105 road favorite there. And Suarez, 6 innings, gave up 4 earned runs. Bradish, he pitched about 6.5 innings, gave up 5 earned runs. So it's really a tale of two seasons, how much better these guys have been so far this year. And you talk about a crazy over-under line. You know, you look at two of the best pitchers in baseball. They opened this 8 overnight, Brian, and it's now 7 to the over. I think that was just maybe a bad number. A little surprised they had that kind of a number with these two pitchers on the mound. So, yeah, we have seen a substantial move quickly down from 8 to 7 over now, which is obviously a very key number in baseball. Once again, if you're watching us live right now on WagerTalk TV on YouTube, YouTube Shorts, also Instagram live feed, let us know if there's any games you want to talk about. We're going to also touch on the Rays and Braves in the best bet segment from Bryan Leonard. He's got a play coming up in that game later. And another spotlight game we want to get to is actually Mariners and Rangers. And we've got a little talk about this in the chat already. As Titan CT, one of our loyal viewers, said he has cashed with the Rangers the last 2 days. Puppy dog, bark, dog emojis. By the way, Titan CT also says more seriously that his back hurts working on the machine. Needs a stripper to walk on it and make it feel better. So once again, if you can help him out, live chat and let him know. And Professor Chris, there we go. Joe Ranieri can always help out down there in South Miami. Professor Chris said he went 0 for yesterday, so he's ready to smoke it. Prince Paul said he's in the chat. Tyler as well. He said FTF Steve is hosting. He does everything. My boy does it all. And I will be doing it all because I'll be back with Joe Ranieri, strippers included, on 3:30 Eastern for the NBA tip-off show. Yes, we are starting a little bit earlier because the season is almost over, and we don't want to miss the Mavs getting swept perhaps. So we're going to start at 3:30 Eastern for live NBA Game 4 Finals talk. But, Brian, let me get your thoughts on one of these Apple TV games tonight. We got 2 of them at 10 Eastern. So this is a spotlight game, Apple TV for those that watch it. And we've got an interesting one here with Texas and Seattle. You know, both the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, hard to remember that they were both in the World Series last year because they both have underachieved this season. Mariners, meanwhile, have really been an overachiever. And Arthur DeCesar actually was on Wager Talk today, and I asked him about liability. He said the Phillies wouldn't be great because I think they were at 30-1 when they opened. But he said they've got some liability on the Mariners in the American League. That would not be a good result if they won the whole thing. I don't think it's going to happen. But my point is the Mariners are playing good baseball this year. The Rangers are not. What are you doing with this one, Brian? Currently, Mariners about $1.40 favorite at home against the Rangers tonight. 7 over, another key number on that total.
Team that obviously did not play as well during the regular season last year, and they went to the playoffs and just were terrific. That's what this Texas Rangers team could be. Is they could be a team that gets hot, and then they've been there before with a lot of confidence. The Mariners are a team that I also like coming into this season, and it's a situation for me that the Mariners have just been very inconsistent. Their best hitters just have not had a very good year. Julio Rodriguez, his stat numbers look fine. He's just not hitting for power. Expected batting average, slugging, and everything is fine. But this is a team right now that has not hit very well. We've talked in the past about the Seattle offense being a concern at home. Teams just do not hit well here. But from a pitching standpoint, Andrew Heaney's a guy who seems to continue to get the job done every year, even though he pitches for different teams every season. And his numbers, if you take a look at the StatCast numbers, they have not been very good. The best thing for Andrew Heaney is his walk percentage of 5.6% is very good. Castillo's good. He's not been great this year, but he is the superior offer in this contest for myself. And it's a situation for me where the line is basically what I thought it would be. So I'm not going to be playing in this one. I'll be sitting this one out.
Yeah, it's hard to say the Rangers are necessarily heating up, even though they've won 3 or 4. They took, 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, but both of those wins, they had 3 runs. In fact, they've scored 3 or less in 3 of these last 4 games, despite going 3-1, and they've had single-digit hits now in 6 straight games. So once again, maybe a little bit of a wait and see if they've really heated up or not. Seattle, of course, always a lower-scoring team at home, and that's been the case again this season, batting .212 at home in what's a very pitcher-friendly park in Seattle. All right, Brian, once again, viewers, if you have any questions on any specific games, please let us know. Any player props, pitcher props as well. I'm just going to go down the board here, and while we got you on, I got to talk about your Cleveland Guardians. I mentioned that there's only 5 teams above 600 in baseball. Orioles, Phillies, Dodgers, Yankees. Cleveland, that's the other team. Could win some bar bets on that one. Guardians bullpen has been fantastic this year. Yet we find your Cleveland Guardians, not your Cleveland Indians, is $1.35 or about $1.20 dog. Take back -135. Toronto, the home favorite. Total around 8 to the over tonight. Allen and Gassman, the gas can. What are you doing with this Cleveland-Toronto game? And long-term, big picture, Bryan, are you a believer in your Cleveland Guardians?
I am becoming a believer in my Cleveland Guardians. I like some of the moves they're making. There's some guys in the minors that could be brought up as well. They're playing very well. It's just, you watch them play, and you see this every year. The teams that seem to do very well are teams that get along well. And the locker room is so important, and it's something that we can only go by what other people tell us, because obviously we're not there. But this is a really close-knit group in Cleveland. I didn't expect a lot out of them this year because of the new coach taking over, who had no coaching ability, and Stephen Vogt. But this team has played very well. Unfortunately, Logan Allen, I think, is the weakness out of the starting rotation for Cleveland. And that's a concern here. Kevin Gausman is clearly the better pitcher, but he entered this year injured. He did not have surgery, and he's been up and down all season long. From an offensive standpoint, I trust Cleveland so much more than I trust Toronto here. So I do prefer the Cleveland side here, even though I'm not a big Logan Allen fan. If Cleveland does happen to fall behind early, I think we could play this game live, because this back end of the Toronto bullpen has been lousy all year. And as you mentioned, Cleveland's back end has been terrific. So if we get through 5 or 6 innings here and Toronto's got a 1-run lead, that's going to be a nice betting opportunity to play Cleveland. And this one is a nice underdog in that regard, because they're going to dominate the last 3 innings of this game. And we'll get a nice price in them doing that. So that's what I'm looking forward to at this point. I like Cleveland in the game, but I think we'll get a better number if we wait a little bit and once Logan Allen's out of there and get to that bullpen, because it's been terrific.
Yeah, and Tyler in the chat is saying he likes the Guardians money line, the plus money. He thinks the Blue Jays will not hit lefties, and that's what Tyler is doing right now with this game. Also got some questions in the chat about this Tigers-Astros game, and I do want to get your thoughts on this. Johnny Detroit's Tigers, but more importantly, the Astros are starting to turn things around. This is a team that obviously was underachieving beginning of the season. And you talked a lot about it, Bryan. We were saying how the bullpen wasn't doing well, but they still had some talent there. You thought they would turn things around in the bullpen, and they really have done so. If you look at their seasonal stats now, a very solid 3.6 ERA, a 1.26 whip, and that's after the first month of the season. I think their ERA was like 5.5, and they're still down to 3.5 now. They've been even better over the last couple of months. And this is a Houston bullpen that's turning around, yet the Astros are just 3-4 their last 7. Tigers have been feisty this year in that very weak AL Central. They're 2 games below 500. Astros, though, still 7 games below 500. They have been playing better, but they've been a huge money burner this year. In fact, they're down 17.5 units against the money line. Have you seen a buy sign with Houston, Bryan? And do you see anything in this game tonight, Tigers at Astros?
I think Houston is going to be much better the rest of the season. I don't know if they make the playoffs. I do have some major concerns. Their 8th inning guy has not pitched well this year, Reynolds. So they've got some weaknesses there. They've had very good stats over the last few years in the back end of the bullpen. But if you take a look at what he's done this year, his numbers are very down. In fact, there was a nice article out the other day, and unfortunately, I don't remember who wrote it, but it talked about what's been going on in the back of the bullpen for Houston. And, they're going to be better than they were. They obviously have a lot of talent. But I actually saw something where, Trevor Bauer wanted to come to Houston. He'd be a good 1-inning guy, get him in the 6th, 7th, 8th innings. I think that would be something that would work out for both player and team. But it's hard to go against Skubal. And he's been very good this year. Obviously, probably in many people's cases, the best pitcher in baseball. So it's hard to go against him. But Hunter Brown is better than what he has shown so far this year. He's pitched a little bit better lately. They sent him out of the minors. He's back now, and he's pitched better since he's been back. The total in this game is 7, lean toward the under. I could see another low-scoring game here. Don't want to go against Scoble, but I think Brown is going to be much better now and through the rest of the season. He's got more talent than what he showed earlier. So I'll be passing on this one. I'd like to play the under, but in this ballpark, it's a 7. I just can't do it.
Yeah, it opened briefly 7.5. It's now 7 juice to the under, -115, even under -120. So we have seen some under money coming on this one between the Astros and the Tigers. And that first pitch is at 8:10 Eastern tonight on Friday. All right, live chat also asking about the Reds and Brewers. We've got Green and Peralta. A little bit of money coming in on Milwaukee in this game, Brian. They opened 140. It's up to 150 now. Another move to the under, though. It opened 8 under, now 7.5 over. We've seen several games drop lower with the over-unders that we've been talking about here on the show. And this is a Cincinnati team I talked a lot about earlier in the season, that they were kind of playing with fool's gold. They were averaging over 5 runs a game and barely batting over 200 on the season. So I was like, something's got to give. Those two numbers don't jive. And my feel is that normally the batting average, the consistency of that weighs out. And that's what happened. The Reds did go in a little bit of a slump about a month ago. Have somewhat turned things around recently, to say the least. They had that 7-game win streak. They've won 8 of their last 10 now, yet they're still 2 games below 500 in that very mediocre NL Central. Brewers look like the team to beat in this division. They're 12 games up right now at 40-28. They've been one of the best money makers in baseball, quietly one of the best money makers, because they've been a good team for several years, but they're still up over 13 units, which makes me think the betting markets are still sleeping on them. Treading water going 4-5 their last 9. So we've got the Reds playing better baseball right now, but Milwaukee the better team on the season. You doing anything with this game tonight on Friday, Cincinnati at Milwaukee?
Yeah, hats off to Hunter Green, who's been very good this year. Now, his walk rate, still a concern, 10%. As Freddie Peralta's is at 8.9%. So both of these pitchers have given up a lot of free passes. But Hunter Green has been very good. He's keeping the home runs down, and that's something that is really important when he pitches in Cincinnati. Obviously, the ball flies pretty well in Milwaukee, but not like Cincinnati. Freddie Peralta's a guy who I really like. He's been very good, but he's been very inconsistent this year. Last year, he got on that run, and he was unhittable for a long stretch of time. We haven't seen that this year out of Peralta and this Milwaukee team. Milwaukee, as I mentioned in the past, I like their defense. I like the way they switch a lot of guys in and out. Cleveland does a lot of that. Tampa Bay has always done that kind of thing. Arizona's been very good at that as of late. So you get a lot of guys that get to be in the lineup each and every day, whether it be a defensive replacement or a guy that comes in as a pitch hitter. And I like that kind of thing. I talked for years about Tampa Bay not doing enough pitch hitting, not bringing guys in off the bench when it was a lefty-righty thing. Or excuse me, not Tampa Bay, Toronto. And it's a situation where you continue to see teams overplay their stats, and that's the Brewers, that's the Giants, that's Tampa Bay over the years, because they have the matchup advantages. And certain teams don't do it, and I don't understand why. Cincinnati just saw them play Cleveland in a 2-game series here, so I was able to watch all those games. And the Reds just didn't look very confident in that group. The offense has kind of struggled a little bit as of late. De La Cruz is not hot like he was earlier in the season. He's still a tremendous advantage when you get him on base, but he's just not getting on base. And unless he gets walked tonight by Peralta, I don't see him being a major threat here. So I like Milwaukee here. I just don't want to lay that number because I just don't trust Peralta. Very inconsistent. But to me, Milwaukee is the better team. I think they win, but I'm not laying that number.
It's Bryan Leonard. I'm Steve Merril. This is WagerTalk TV. You're watching MLB First Pitch live every day at 2 Eastern. And you can find our best bets for Friday night for just $5 because it's Customer Appreciation Friday. Get Bryan Leonard's top best bet. Get my top best bet. Bryan's, I believe, is a baseball play. He's got a strong 4%er going tonight. I've actually got the NBA Finals Game 4 as my $5 best bet. So once again, baseball and basketball best bets from every capper for just $5 tonight on Friday at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. And we're going to get to a free best bet here for the show in just a moment from Bryan. He's going to look at the Rays and Braves. If there's any other games you want, chime in. Time remaining here in the chat. We will get to them here over the next couple of minutes. But, Bryan, I want to ask you a big picture question while I've got you on the show. As far as the playoffs go, maybe some play-on play against teams where about 70 games into the season, almost at the halfway mark. And we're starting to see some teams pull away, others starting to fade, but it's still wide open in the wild card race because there's so many teams that make the playoffs now, and they're all within a game or so. I'm going to ask you about one Dave Sherpin and I have been talking about, Pirates. Now, obviously, it's probably plus money, but do the Pirates make the playoffs? I'm starting to think they have a little bit of a chance with these young pitchers, maybe picking up an extra 10, 12, 15 wins when Skeens and these other guys are on the mound. And the other one I'll ask you too, my Washington Nationals, two teams I thought had no chance when the season began. Do you think either I'll give you a 2-for-1. Do either the Nats or the Pirates make the playoffs, and do you make that at even money?
This year, no. Next year, yes. I think they're both too young right now to make it this season. The Pirates with Skeens and Jones have been terrific from a pitching standpoint. Falter's been good. They've actually got another guy in the minors who's been knocking them dead. The problem with the Pirates is their offense. I just don't see a lot of. They got too many guys who swing and miss in this lineup. They just don't have the guys that get on consistently. Pittsburgh could use a couple Stephen Kwans. Let's just put it that way. Without getting those guys on and causing trouble. I mean, Pittsburgh's got some speed on that team, but they just don't get on base, and then they don't steal the bases. With Washington, that was one of the teams that I picked over. I took Baltimore and Washington as my two teams to go over. And I've seen a little of everything at Washington this year. I think they have some talented offensive players. They got a couple of guys down in the minors that'll be making the trip up, but they still have some weaknesses in the starting rotation. Core's been very good. Obviously, Parker's been very good. So they are considering for the future, they are a team. Savali will be coming up. I believe that was Kate Savali. Will be coming up later on this year. Next year, he's one of their best pitching recruits. So the future looks bright for both these teams. I just don't think either one will get there. Playing in that division, it's tough to win in that division, and also the East is very good also. So too many good teams ahead of them, but the future is bright for both of these programs.
Yeah, I think the one thing Pittsburgh has going for them is they're in such a weak division. But then again, Milwaukee's almost about 7 games ahead already. They're going to win that division. So it's going to come down to the wild card. So the division's not going to really matter for Pittsburgh in that regard. And the Nationals remind me, my Washington Nationals remind me a little bit of my Baltimore Orioles as far as getting some young talent and sacrificing a couple seasons with all those trades recently and unloading that roster after the World Series win about 5 years ago. But it does look like they're starting to build back up and head in the right direction. And then Pittsburgh, of course, as you said, they've got 2 up-and-coming young star pitchers, and Skeens especially is the real deal. Pitch counts, you got to worry about that as well. They're going to probably shut him down, in my opinion, before September maybe. So that's another reason they're probably a year away and are going to be focusing more next year. Keep the live questions coming in the chat. We have a few more minutes here before we get to Brian's best bet in that Rays-Braves game. We see Eric DeLong, and Eric's a great viewer on the videos and the live shows. He says, when the kitty is purring, we cash. And that cat likes dogs. So they're jumping onto this, Brian, by the way. So don't worry about the cat anymore, because people are waiting to hear when you give out an underdog is what to do. If the cat meows, apparently that's a good thing. See, to me, that would make me think the cat's on the favorite. So I'm conflicted here. We need some confirmation. We need some back testing on this. But they say the cat is in play. Also, Titans TC in the chat, as always, as I said earlier. Tyler is with us. He says that Nats minus 178 line is crazy high. So we'll see what happens. And then Fortunat is one of our best viewers, long time here on Wager Talk TV, has a question for both of us. He said, Brian, in the AL West teams, which are most likely to awake from their malaise? And we talked about this a little bit earlier with the Astros. Obviously Oakland right now is not waking up from anything. In fact, I think they've overachieved going 26-45, as crazy as that is. Angels 26-42. They're probably a bottom feeder as well, in my opinion. So it's really Seattle's leading the division, then the Rangers and Astros are below 500. You've talked about both the teams on the show, though. One thing I will say, Brian, is both of those teams have plus run differentials, 3 and 5. They should both be about 500 or better, yet they're combined 9 games below 500. So I would say both the Astros and Rangers could end up as winning teams. I'd say they both are going to wake up, in my opinion. I
agree. Between Seattle, Houston, and the Rangers are the 3 teams that will fight it out all the way to the end. So I'm not counting out any of them. Houston obviously has been there many times before. Texas just won the World Series. So Seattle's got really great young talent. So, yeah, with a pitching staff that may be one of the best in baseball. So they're all going to fight it out. It would not surprise me if they get some wild cards in the playoffs based on with the division they're in. The East is very good. Obviously, we've got teams like the Yankees and Baltimore are going to fight it out all the way. And the Yankees don't even have Garrett Cole back, but he may be making his last minor league start today. He's supposed to go again. I don't know if he's going to be built up enough to start, go 5 innings once he gets to the pros, but it'll be something that they've been able to. Coming into the season, I thought the Yankees, if they could play 500 ball before they get him back, they're a team that is a team that you can watch out for. They're playing far better than 500 ball. So the Yankees have made a believer out of me. I still have many questions about the back of that lineup also, but that's the major leagues anymore. Teams got 6 good hitters, and they just try to get some defensive specialists in there for the final position. So, that division's still wide open in my regard.
Yeah, I mean, the Garrett Cole situation is really working out well for him because they're winning without him, so they can take their time getting him back. And by the way, he's made 2 starts at Double-A baseball, 1.1 ERA in those 2 starts, and a 143 opposing batting average, and a .5 WHIP. So I know it's Double-A, but it looks like his game is on Garrett Cole, and they're taking their time bringing him back, so they could also be a power in the postseason for that reason. Live chat is bumping as always, and Tyler was pointing out earlier, like everybody is on the Padres. And then he said Brian's cat is even on the Padres too. So we'll ask you about this game, Brian. And the Padres are an interesting team to talk about because they're a play-on team for me, and I've pointed this out on several shows, that their offensive numbers on the road this year have been fantastic. And I do like to look at road numbers because it takes in all different types of ballparks. Obviously the Rockies would be a textbook example of that. You can't look at their overall numbers because they play in altitude. But the Padres are batting .287 on the road this season in 33 games, averaging 5 runs a game, and they're barely averaging 4 runs a game at home. They're batting like .230. So it's been night and day. They're 19-14 on the road. They're below 500 at home. So what's your take on the Padres? I think there's some upside there. I think that offense is better than people realize. And then we have the Mets here, who have won 2 out of 3 since returning from London, but they took on the Marlins, and they were back at home. So I don't want to read too much into that. I would agree with the Padres tonight, and we'll see what your cat and what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I picked the Padres to go under season wins. They're about right at the number right now, so we'll have to see. But you mentioned the offense for the Padres. I have been impressed by the offense for this team. Cronenworth's having another nice season. Profar came out of nowhere. When a team is signing Jerson Profar and he's going to be your leadoff hitter, I don't have a lot of hope for your offense. But hey, he's been great, and he's been able to do that all season long. Donovan Solano's been a nice pickup for them, and he's been playing very well. So the Padres are playing the much better ball, in my opinion, than the Mets. And when you take a look at the pitchers, Matt Waldron with his knuckleball, he has been terrific this season. And the thing with the knuckleball is you tend to walk a lot of players. Well, he's walking less than league average at 7.2%. So he's been very good. Sean Manaea is one of those guys going for the Mets, where when he's good, he's very good. When he's bad, he's very bad. And when a pitcher like that is on the mound, I'd prefer to play live betting in those regards, to see him pitch an inning or two, see if he's got it that day. And if he does, that may be something I look at as an underdog situation. But here, I also prefer the Padres. I didn't make it to the counter myself, but I would play the Padres in this one based on the starting pitching matchup, and I trust their hitters a little bit more.
Yeah, and Tyler's asking where Dan is to talk about Manaea walks with him. Dan, of course, will be back on Monday. He's on assignment today. He's taste testing. We'll talk about it Monday, but he will be back on Monday here on MLB First Pitch at 2 Eastern. And Manaea had just 1 walk. He's had 1 walk or less in, I believe, 5 of his last 6 starts, but he's coming off 2 really bad outings. So there is a potential bounce back spot for him tonight if he's a quality starter, and that's a big if. After back-to-back starts, he's given up 12 runs, 11 earned the last 2 outings. That is my concern also with the Padres, is that I think he might pitch better than expected this evening. All right, about to wrap up the shows. Last call, if you have any questions, player props, games you want to look at. City by the Bay in the chat, always good to see him. He likes the Angels plus 130. He is all over it. And City by the Bay also said he would never bet the Giants as a favorite, though, in any game. And they're the other Apple TV game tonight at 10 Eastern. And the Angels, by the way, or Henderson on the mound. Giants still undecided. Pirates also still undecided against Colorado. By the way, I have a free play in that Pirates-Rockies game on my page. Even with the undecided starter, there's an angle I like on the over-under in that game. So check out free play for Pirates and Rockies on my page tonight, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, and also get my NBA Game 4 best bet for just $5 because it is $5 Customer Appreciation Friday. Once again, a free baseball play, the Rockies-Pirates game, and then my NBA Game 4 best bet for just $5. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And this is Bryan Leonard, who's also got a strong baseball play going tonight on Friday. Tell us about that, Bryan, and also give us a free play for the show here in that Rays and Braves game tonight on Friday.
Yeah, I've been terrific. 16, 3-1 with 3% and higher plays in Major League Baseball. Had the Orioles a couple of days ago, got that victory. It's been going very well, and as people know, I play a lot of underdogs, so to have a number of 16, 3-1 has been outstanding. This is a 4% play. I love this play in Major League Baseball. It's the strongest play we've had in quite some time, and you get it for only $5. It's Customer Appreciation Day, normally $25. Get it for $5. It's on the evening card, so we've got plenty of time to get a hold of that. A quick update, St. Louis and Chicago, the first game on the board. Top of the second inning, no score thus far between Gibson and Wicks. I'm going to take a look as my best bet in this on the card for this show tonight. And it's going to be an underdog. And it's going to be it's going to be Tampa Bay against Atlanta. Zach Littell going for Tampa Bay. He's one of the guys that doesn't strike a lot of people out, but he still gets roughly about 8 per 9 or so. But he seems to be overlooked many times. He doesn't have a strong history. He's been a journeyman for the last few years, but he gets the job done. He's going up against an Atlanta team, and I like to track how teams not only do on the entire season, but how they've done in a breakdown of last games. And Atlanta, since May 1st, offensively ranks as the 4th worst team in Major League Baseball, just like a point better than like the Rockies and the Tigers and some of these other teams that are also struggling. So Atlanta's got a lot of injuries, no doubt about it. When you lose Acuna, who was the #1 fantasy baseball player coming into the season, that's going to have an effect on you. And they also lost the best pitcher in Major League Baseball coming into the season. So Atlanta's had many injury problems, but they're just not hitting well enough for me to want to back them here, laying over $2. Chris Sale's been terrific, no doubt about it. But Tampa Bay is a team that hits pretty well against good pitching. If you take a look at that historically, they find ways to win. I've talked about the coaching staff over there in Tampa. Love the coaching staff. So to get Tampa in this game with a quality starter on the mound in this price range is the way I'm looking. Sale's great, but to lay what were we looking at, 215, 220 in this game? Can't do it with Atlanta. Give me the quality bullpen, the quality starter out of Tampa Bay with guys who have been there before. Tampa Bay plus close to $2 on here will be my play as my best bet on the show today.
Bryan Leonard, the dog man who has a cat. He likes Kansas City earlier in the show, and then he just mentioned Tampa Bay as a big dog. Didn't hear any meows with that dog. That was a big dog. That one scared the cat. A little bit too big.
Yeah,
for the cat. It's under the desk now.
I don't think Kirby's got enough faith in a $2 dog, but yeah, he does like the dog.
Big dog from Bryan Leonard. And don't forget, he's got one of his strongest baseball plays this season going tonight, and it's just $5. That's an 80% discount off the normal rate. And I've got my Game 4 NBA playoff best bet for just $5. So check us both out, Steve Merril, Bryan Leonard, along with all those daily free plays as well, WagerTalk.com. And also the $5 specials available at SportsMemo.com. Thanks to all in the live chat. Tyler on the way out was saying he played the A's Twins under 8.5 last night, and now it's up to 9. Yeah, that is a little strange to me as well, Tyler. A's are actually 9-2 under their last 11, so a little surprised to see the sharp money come in and push it to that key number of 9. We'll see what happens there. But best of luck to everybody out there in the live chat. Don't forget, we'll be doing this again NBA style in about an hour. Joe Ranieri and myself, Steve Merril, will be back at 3:30 Eastern, a little bit of an early tip time because it's Game 4. It could be the end. We'll let you know if it's the end or not. We'll have a deep dive into NBA Game 4. Put into the Mavs, Celtics, player props, side total, everything you need, and it will have the live chat going as well. Joe Ranieri loves the day drinking in Instagram, but you'll have to start a little bit early on the day drinking, which I know is not a problem for Instagram. That's at 3:30 Eastern today live here. And, of course, you can always watch the replay of all these shows on WagerTalk TV 24/7. Like, subscribe, and comment below. And stay tuned here to WagerTalk TV for some more great baseball and basketball preview videos coming up next.